I retired with $11,000 in my checking account. Everyone, my kids, my brother, even my barber, said I was done. They were wrong, but not for the reasons you think. The first thing I did after retiring was exactly what every financial advisor tells you to do. I started saving money, every penny. I clipped coupons like it was my job. I drove to 3 different grocery stores to save $4 on groceries. I turned my thermostat down to 64 degrees in January and wore sweaters inside my own house. For 18 months, I saved and saved and saved. You know where it got me? Broker. Not broken, broker. My savings account went from $11,000 to $14,300. Sounds like progress, right? Wrong. Dead wrong. While I was saving $3,300, inflation ate $2,100 of my purchasing power. My property taxes went up $800. Medicare premiums increased $200. My car needed $1,400 in repairs. Net result? I was moving backwards at 45 miles per hour while thinking I was winning. That's when I met Bill at the VA hospital. Bill was 71, sitting in the waiting room reading the Wall Street Journal. Not the AARP newsletter. Not some senior magazine with recipes for meatloaf. The Wall Street Journal. I asked him why a retiree was reading about stocks. "Harold," he said, "what do you think happens to money that just sits there?" "It stays safe," I told him. He laughed. Not mean laughter, sad laughter. The kind you hear from someone who learned a hard lesson. "Safe money is dying money," he said, "especially after 65. Bill had retired at 67 with $180,000 in his 401k. His first year, he did exactly what I was doing, saved every nickel, put it all in CDs and savings accounts, safe investments. By year 3, that $180,000 had the buying power of $160,000. By year 5, it felt like $140,000. That's when I got mad, Bill told me. Really mad. Not at the market, not at the economy, at myself, for being so scared of losing money that I guaranteed I'd lose money. So what did Bill do? He stopped saving. Completely. Every dollar that came in, Social Security, pension, part-time work, every dollar had a job before it hit his account. Some went to dividend stocks, some to REITs, some to a small business he bought with 2 partners. I haven't saved a single dollar in 4 years, Bill said, and I'm worth more now than when I retired. I thought he was crazy, but I was desperate, and desperate people try crazy things. Before I share what happened next, I want you to do something. Write in the comments right now, "I build my wealth starting today." Not tomorrow, not next month, today. Because what I'm about to tell you only works for people who decide first. I went home from that VA appointment and did something that scared me to death. I took $10,000 of my $14,300 and bought dividend stocks. Not risky growth stocks, not cryptocurrency, boring, predictable companies that had been paying dividends for 25 years or more. Verizon, Johnson & Johnson, Coca-Cola, companies my grandfather would have recognized. First month, I made $47 in dividends. $47 for doing absolutely nothing. My savings account was paying me $12 a month. Suddenly I was making 4 times that, and the principal was growing too. But here's what really opened my eyes. My neighbor Carl knocked on my door one evening. Carl was 68, retired from the post office. He looked terrible, stressed, worried. "Harold," he said, "I need to ask you something. You seem different lately, less worried." What changed? So I told him about Bill, about the dividend stocks, about how I'd stopped saving money. Carl looked at me like I'd suggested we rob a bank. You stopped saving money, he asked. At our age? That's financial suicide. No, I said. Saving money at our age is financial suicide. Inflation is killing us, Carl. Every dollar you stuff under the mattress loses value while you sleep. I showed him my first dividend statement, $47. Then my second month, $51. The stocks had gone up a little, and I'd bought more. But what if they go down? Carl asked. What if they don't? I shot back. Carl, what if everything you've been taught about money after 65 is wrong? That conversation happened on a Tuesday. By Saturday, Carl had moved $15,000 out of his savings account. Not into risky investments, into the same boring dividend stocks I'd chosen. Companies that sell toilet paper and electricity and hamburgers. Things people need whether the economy is good or bad. 6 months later, Carl was a different man. Confident, excited about money for the first time since retiring. His dividend checks were paying for date nights with his wife. For the first time in 3 years, they were living instead of just surviving. But the real transformation happened in my own head. See, when you're saving money, you're thinking scarcity. Every expense is a threat. Every dollar spent is a dollar lost forever. You start living smaller, thinking smaller, being smaller. When you stop saving and start deploying capital, that's what Bill taught me to call it, deploying capital, everything changes. You start looking for opportunities instead of hiding from risks. You start thinking like an investor instead of a hoarder. By month 8, I wasn't just buying dividend stocks. I was learning about REITs, real estate investment trusts. These are companies that own apartment buildings, shopping centers, office buildings. They're required by law to pay out 90% of their profits to shareholders. I bought shares in a REIT that owns senior housing facilities. Makes sense, right? Baby boomers are aging. We need places to live. Supply and demand. Basic economics. That REIT paid me 6.8% annually. My savings account was paying 0.15%. Let me say that again. 6.8% versus 0.15%. That's not even close. That's not even math. That's just logic. If you're still here, you're already thinking differently than 90% of retirees out there. Subscribe. I've got more to share. But here's where the story gets really interesting. Remember my kids? The ones who thought I was done? They started noticing changes. My daughter Sarah called me one day. "Dad," she said, "you sound different, happier. What's going on?" I told her about my new approach to money, about dividend stocks and REITs, about how I'd stopped saving and started investing. "But Dad," she said, "isn't that risky at your age?" "Sarah," I said, "you know what's risky at my age? Running out of money. You know what guarantees you'll run out of money? Keeping it all in savings accounts while inflation eats it alive." I sent her my first year numbers. I'd started with $14,300. After 12 months of not saving a single penny, I had $19,800 in assets. The dividends and distributions had paid me $1,240. The principal had grown by $4,260. Total gain, $5,500 in 1 year. On money that would have made me $144 sitting in savings. Sarah was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "Dad, can you teach me how to do this?" That's when I knew I was on to something bigger than just my own retirement. By year 2, I'd expanded beyond just dividend stocks and REITs. I bought into a business, a small laundromat in a good neighborhood. Boring? Absolutely. Profitable? You bet. People always need to wash clothes. Recession or boom. Rich or poor. Dirty clothes need to get clean. I went in with 2 other partners. Guys I met at Denny's one morning, both retirees looking for something better than CDs. We each put in $15,000. The laundromat throws off about $2,000 a month in profit, split 3 ways. That's $667 a month, every month, whether I get out of bed or not. Someone showed me something called the zero savings law. It says saving money after 65 is actually the fastest way to go broke. Sounds crazy, right? But when I tried what it suggested instead, everything changed in 90 days. It's all in the description. By year 3, my monthly income was higher than when I was working full-time. Not from a job, from assets, from money that worked while I slept. Dividend stocks, $420 a month. REITs, $280 a month. Laundromat, $667 a month. Social Security, $1,840 a month. Total monthly income, $3,207. My old salary, $2,900 a month after taxes. I was making more money retired than I ever made working, and I wasn't touching the principal. Everything was growing. But the real miracle wasn't the money. It was the confidence. For the first time since my wife died, I felt like I had a future, like I was building something instead of just managing decline. I started taking risks I never would have taken with a savings mentality. I bought a rental property, not some rundown fixer-upper, a nice 2-bedroom condo in a college town. Steady rental income from responsible students. Down payment, $40,000. Monthly rent, $1,400. Monthly mortgage, taxes, and insurance, $890. Net profit, $510 a month, plus the property appreciates over time. Would I have done that if I was still saving money? Never. Too scary, too risky. But when you understand that inflation is the real risk, when you see your purchasing power disappearing while you play it safe, everything looks different. I started meeting with other retirees who were thinking the same way. There's this whole underground network of older folks who figured out that the traditional retirement advice is garbage. We'd meet at IHOP every Thursday morning. 6 guys ages 65 to 78. All of us building wealth instead of just spending down what we had. There was Frank, who owned shares in 5 different businesses. Tom, who'd built a portfolio of dividend aristocrats, companies that had increased their dividends every year for 25 years straight. Eddie, who specialized in preferred stocks that paid him 7% annually like clockwork. We called ourselves the Thursday Morning Millionaire Club. Sounds cheesy, I know. But 4 of the 6 guys in that group were millionaires within 5 years of changing their approach to money. I was one of them. By age 70, my net worth hit $1.2 million. At 65, remember, I had $11,000. 5 years later, $1.2 million. How? Simple. I never saved another dollar after that conversation with Bill at the VA hospital. Every dollar that came in had a job. Some went to dividend stocks, some to REITs, some to businesses, some to rental property, none to savings accounts. The key insight, and this is what most people miss, is that after 65, you're not accumulating for someday. Someday is here. You're not saving for retirement. You are retired. So your money needs to work differently. Instead of growing slowly and safely for decades, it needs to produce income immediately while still growing to beat inflation. Dividend stocks do that. REITs do that. Businesses do that. Rental property does that. Savings accounts don't do that. CDs don't do that. Money market accounts don't do that. They just slowly lose value while you feel safe. My brother still thinks I'm crazy. He's 72, has $340,000 in various savings vehicles, and watches it get smaller every year in real terms. He clips coupons and turns off lights and drives 20 minutes out of his way to save $2 on gas. Meanwhile, I just bought a new truck, paid cash, not because I'm reckless with money, but because my assets generate enough income to support the lifestyle I want. Last month, my dividend stocks paid me $520. My REITs kicked off $340. The laundromat threw off $667. The rental property netted $510 after expenses. Total passive income for 1 month, $2,037, plus Social Security, $1,840, plus a small pension, $340. Total monthly income, $4,217. Not bad for a guy who was supposed to be done at 65. But here's what I want you to understand. This didn't happen because I'm smart. It happened because I stopped doing what everyone said was smart. Everyone said save money. I stopped saving. Everyone said be conservative. I took calculated risks. Everyone said act your age. I started thinking like a 30-year-old with a long investment horizon. Everyone said protect your principal. I focused on growing my income. The difference is night and day. When you're saving money, every market dip is a disaster. When you're income focused, market dips are buying opportunities. When you're hoarding cash, inflation is your enemy. When you're invested in assets, inflation often helps you. Real estate values rise, dividend payments increase, business revenues grow. You're not fighting economic forces, you're riding them. Look, I'm 74. I'm not trying to build a business or sell courses. I just put down the 7 things that actually worked, called it the Wealth After 65 Code. If it helps you skip even one of the years I wasted, that's enough for me. Link below. Last year, I made a decision that would have been impossible with a savings mentality. I bought my daughter Sarah a house. Not a loan, not a mortgage. I bought her a house, $180,000, paid cash. Why? Because my assets generated enough income to replace that $180,000 within 2 years. And because I'd learned that money sitting idle is money dying slowly. Sarah cried when I handed her the keys, not because of the house, though she loves it, but because she finally understood what I'd been trying to tell her. Dad, she said, you didn't just rebuild your wealth, you rebuilt yourself. She was right. When you stop thinking like someone managing decline and start thinking like someone building a future, everything changes. Your posture changes. Your confidence changes. Your relationships change. People want to be around someone who's growing instead of someone who's shrinking. That Thursday morning group at IHOP, we still meet. But now we meet at a nice steakhouse. We can afford it. More importantly, we don't feel guilty about it. We're not spending our children's inheritance. We're not eating cat food in our final years. We're living like the successful men we are, because we figured out that wealth after 65 works differently than wealth before 65. Before 65, you save for someday. After 65, you deploy for today. Before 65, you accumulate slowly. After 65, you generate immediately. Before 65, you play it safe. After 65, you play it smart. The difference changed everything for me. It changed everything for Carl. It changed everything for the guys in our Thursday group. It can change everything for you too. But first you have to accept that everything you've been taught about money after 65 is wrong. Not well-intentioned. Not old-fashioned. Wrong. Saving money after 65 is the most expensive mistake you can make. Every month you do it, you lose ground you'll never get back. One more thing. Write this in the comments. I protect my time, my money, and my future. If you said it, you're already ahead of 90% of retirees out there. I wish someone had told me this when I retired with $11,000 in my checking account. But nobody did. I had to figure it out the hard way. Lost 3 years thinking I was being smart when I was actually being broke. You don't have to lose those years. The information is available. The opportunities are there. The only question is whether you're brave enough to stop saving money and start building wealth. 65 is not the end. It's the starting line. And you've got more laps in you than you think.